If you liked my USAA video, you're going to love this one. Because today, we're going to talk about Navy Federal Credit Union. If you bank with Navy Federal, then you need to hear this. I used to. Now, of course, this was probably 15 years ago. And if we go back a little further, way back in 2008, when you would graduate boot camp, Marines, of course, you were given a checking account with Fort Sill National Bank, is what it was called. But your drill instructors would always tell you, right after graduation, walk over to the Navy Federal branch on Parris Island. I'm sure San Diego has one too, but walk over to the Navy Federal branch and open an account today and close your account with Fort Sill. That was true. Fort Sill is a horrible, horrendous bank, and I'll probably do a video on them soon if they're even still in business, which I hope they're not. But that's how my venture with Navy Federal began. Now, how was my loyalty to Navy Federal rewarded? Well, one day late on a credit card payment, app turned off. Debit cards declined. They would lock me out of my own checking account. And then ultimately, just take the money anyway, often with late fees. For one day. You have to remember, I'm not financially illiterate. Sometimes you're on a multi-week or month field op or an overseas deployment. Sometimes your bills are going to be late. It happens. And you would think that any institution that claims to be solely for service members would understand that. And I remember telling them at one point that I don't understand how this is any different from physically reaching into my wallet and taking money because you think that it's owed to you. Because in the real world, that's called robbery. They call it policy. Or at least they did. Turns out, thousands of other military members felt the same way. Navy Federal has paid millions in settlements for these exact tactics. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Navy Federal used what's called right of offset as a weapon. If your credit card or a loan payment was late, they'd cut off your online access and freeze your debit card. I am not joking. You couldn't buy gas. You couldn't feed your kids. Your paycheck hit? Didn't matter. They take the money to cover their debt first. And like I said, imagine being deployed overseas and suddenly your card stops working because you were one day late. How do you handle that? What do you do? That's not support. That's exploitation. Oh, you don't believe me? In 2016, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau hammered Navy Federal nearly $28.5 million in penalties and refunds for threatening lawsuits they couldn't legally file, wrongfully scaring service members about job loss and wage garnishment. Yeah, they would outright threaten to tell your chain of command if you didn't hurry up and pay your bill, using collections tactics that would make loan sharks blush. Lawsuits then exposed account freezes and unauthorized offset seizures, like the ones I lived through. Military families were financially ambushed. And here's the breaking news. Navy Federal is now being accused of discriminatory lending. Minority members denied mortgages and credit. White applicants approved at a much higher rate. Algorithmic bias hidden behind risk scores. We know those all too well if you've watched my videos. Same playbook that got Wells Fargo destroyed. But this time, the target audience is the U.S. military. Navy Federal markets itself as the most trusted bank for the armed forces. We're family. We understand you. We have your back. Meanwhile, they're squeezing active duty, veterans, and police for profit. That's not loyalty. That's betrayal. If Navy Federal has locked you out, seized money without warning, or screwed your credit, here's what you need to do. File a complaint with the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Pull your credit report for recent damage. Consider switching to a federally chartered credit union that does not weaponize your paycheck. And yes, stand by for a video with credit union suggestions. I'm working on research to figure out who it is we as service members actually can trust. Because so far we know it ain't USAA or Navy Federal now. This isn't about politics. It's about accountability. If Navy Federal has done this to you or someone that you know, tell your story in the comments. People need to see how widespread this really is. Navy Federal does not protect those who protect us. And it's time that we stop pretending that they do. I'm Gray Ledger, and this was the Ledger Brief.